Hello, English 1101 students. It's the 7th week of the summer 2017 semester. If you're watching this video on Monday, I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July tomorrow and that you get to spend it with friends and family and doing some fun things. If you're watching this video on Wednesday, I hope you had a good 4th of July. I've decided to go ahead and post this video on Monday anyway, even though really it's kind of a holiday because, you know, it's a good habit to get into, to watch these videos on Mondays. There's also a few things I want to talk about on this. So remember that I've extended the deadline for the annotated bibliography until Wednesday. So that should give you enough time to get the research done. Somebody's already written me an email wanting to know what goes in the annotated bibliography. If you look at the instructions for the research paper, you'll know that you have to have a minimum of 3 sources, and those 3 sources should be about whichever current event you're going to make your argument about. So make sure that you look at that because, and I've given you a list of current events that are currently being hotly debated. So you can pick from that. Also take note of the disclaimer on there. Do not write about abortion. I will give you a 0 on that paper and you'll have to write another one. So just don't write about abortion to begin with, and I'll grade whatever paper you turn in. The reason for that is that I've read about 1,000 abortion papers. They all say the same thing. I'm over it. So we're going to not write about that. Also, another reason not to write about abortion is that many times people bring emotion into the argument. As you go through this week, the argument is the focus of this week's work. You'll see that an argument is supposed to be logical. It's not supposed to be emotional. When you see people on TV, the talking heads as you call them, get really upset and start screaming at each other, it's because they're not logically arguing anymore and they're now bringing emotion into it. And they're taking their arguments personally or any attacks on their arguments personally. And you don't want to do that in an argumentative essay. Abortion invites emotion. So we're going to take that completely out by not having abortion papers to begin with. So I hope that I've made my point clear. Don't write about abortion. Write about anything else. I have a list of acceptable topics, and it's not limited to that. There may be other topics that you find that you say, hey, I want to write about that. But for now, it's just try to pick one of those and write a good argument about that. I also want to say a note about the modest proposal written by Jonathan Swift. You're supposed to read that this week. It will be on the weekly quiz when I post it. Jonathan Swift was not actually advocating for what you're going to see him advocating for. Jonathan Swift was writing something called satire, and what he had found was there were a lot of poor children and a lot of poor single mothers, and they were resorting to begging on the streets for any kind of sustenance. And these children were dying of malnutrition, and the mothers were not in good shape either. And about the time, a lot of these mothers would end up working as prostitutes, and they had no such thing as birth control back then. So a lot of these prostitutes would end up getting impregnated as one of the hazards of the job, if you will. And so the children would be born into a really bad situation to begin with, because imagine having a prostitute for a mother. That's probably not something that most children would want. And then again, these children would be dying because they couldn't get enough to eat, and their moms, having to beg enough money for themselves and for children, it was very difficult. So a lot of people had all kinds of solutions to the problem. None of them worked. So what Swift has done here is he has said, hey, look, none of your solutions work. I have an idea. And he comes up with the most radical idea you can imagine. And because of this, a lot of people got angry because they thought he was serious. Don't be one of those people that get angry because you think that Jonathan Swift's serious. He is not advocating for the solution that you're going to read. But what he is doing is he's using it as a way to say, hey, we have a problem here. We need to do something about this. What can we do to solve it? And so then you get the discussion that comes as a result of that. And he's going to make attacks at some other people. When he says sophists, he's talking about Catholics. Jonathan Swift was an Anglican priest. The Anglicans and the Catholics did not like each other very much. So he took this little satire as a way to attack the Catholic Church, in addition to attacking government programs, in addition to attacking do-gooders, in addition to attacking a lot of other people. So, but he's making a reasonable argument. Now, nobody's going to ever say that this is the right solution. But this is a good example of how you can build up an argument by taking a premise and then trying to argue it by using good development, good facts. good explanations of the solutions. And this is what you're going to want to shoot for in your argument, which by Wednesday you should have already started writing, because you'll have been done with your annotated bibliography. You'll have your research, and then it's just a question then of how to implement that research. So, and then of course next week's lesson, actually week 8, will be how to incorporate the research. So really get that bibliography done, get all that argument stuff done, start thinking about your argument. What side are you going to take in this particular current event or current topic, if you will, that you are going to want to take a write about. So with that in mind, I happy researching. Let's get that idea of the argument. Also pay attention to the logical fallacies, because you're not going to want to commit any of those in your actual research paper. So a logical fallacy essentially is a flaw in the logic of the argument. You don't want to do that either. So have a great week. Have a great 4th of July, and get ready to really hit that research paper hard these final weeks of the semester.